This is Judge Joe Brown, and you're watching We All Be News TV, the
News Free Dixie.
News Free Dixie for the 21st century.
Morgan Freeman is a very, very smart man. You know, he does this science thing through the wormhole. Yeah. He actually is into that stuff, by the way. He's not just reading lines.
Hey, also, I know, is he an atheist too? Like, I know he's not into, I guess,
Well, let me put it this way. My attitude toward that stuff is, before I waste much time debating on whether it's true or not, I still have a great deal of undisplaced anger at the purpose, well, not at the purpose, but at the usage, well, at the use they had that religion for. It enslaved us.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it ludicrous for African Americans to have no base religion except that one. See, white people aren't basically Christians. What do they call the first planet from the sun? It's Mercury. Then it's Venus. Then after Earth is Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus. You know, you got Europa and Ganymede, all of the names of these Greek and Roman gods. You got Thor missiles, Atlas missiles. You've got Norse mythology in there. You've got Marvel comics where you've got Thor and you've got Odin being played by Anthony Hopkins. You've got Loki.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't forgotten their religions. We don't know who Damballa, Akoti, and Agunbi are because we don't know, even though those are our chief ancestral gods from West Africa, where 99.9% of African Americans hail from as their African origin point.
Mm-hmm.
West Africa. We don't know that. All we have is Christianity. See, we have the 25th we celebrate for Christmas, but Eastern Orthodox Christians celebrate Jesus' birthday in the middle of January. You see. They don't celebrate it the 25th because that never was the one that they started celebrating. They started celebrating Jesus' birthday on the 25th because the so-called pagans wouldn't stop celebrating All Samain, which is A-L-S-A-M-A-I-N-E, the way you spell it in English. It was an old Celtic holiday that occurred on the 25th of December. Why? Because it was 3 or 4 days after the shortest day of the year, and it was long enough after that so they could affirm with assurance that the days were getting longer and the world was returning to productivity. It's also the birth date for the Egyptian god Osiris. It's also the birthday for the Norse god Odin. The Christmas tree, the Tannenbaum, was part of the Celtic celebration, as is mistletoe. See, so they just co-opted that. Easter, why do you have the Easter bunny and eggs on Easter? Because they put it on that day because the ancients celebrated the day for Isis, the god of fertility, who became Aphrodite and then Venus. And what is a very fecund animal? Rabbits. They breed like rabbits. And what is the symbol of fecundity? Eggs. So they have rabbits and Easter eggs. That's why we have Easter eggs. It's not because of Easter. It's because it was a pagan holiday for fertility.
Mm.
So which of these holidays are you celebrating? Kwanzaa? I won't celebrate that because that scurvy scoundrel, Ron Everett, a.k.a. the Maulana Ron Karenga, who was a police and FBI informant on black people and did a lot to tear down the nascent development of a community sense in Los Angeles in the late 60s. He started it as something to pimp black people with. Started it down in a park off of Crenshaw Boulevard.
Mm.
So I won't celebrate that. Islam is cool with me. They treat everybody all right. The third ranking person in ancient Islam was Bilal. He was the slave chained to a rock in the desert that Muhammad rescued and made him the first crier for Islam.
Mm.
You know, I don't speak Swahili, though I took it. You know why? I found out Swahili was a slave language. It is a pidgin language. It's a combination of Bantu, Dutch, and Arabic that was developed for the slave trade in East Africa that went on into the beginning of the 20th century before it was stopped. So why do I want to learn a slave trade language? But everybody goes and does that. They do Afrocentric stuff because they like to dress up in the colored robes. But what they ought to be celebrating is jungle camouflage that the Mau Mau and other revolutionaries won, getting free from colonialism. They want to go Afrocentric, but they don't know who the gods are. They like being cute, but they don't understand. They put braids in their boys' hair, and in Africa, if you've got braids, that means you are a straight up and down sissy.
Mm.
Men can wear all kinds of hairstyles, dreadlocks, but not braids.
I know I also want to touch upon, you told me something back in April about your ideas about the black church, about Jesus being a zombie. You elaborate?
Well, it was relayed to me. Somebody just asked me and said, what do you call something that's dead and gets back up and walks? Now, I don't want to say anything against the religion. I'm not saying that. But honest to goodness, come on now. Sometimes we need to remember that there's another part of this whole equation besides believing. I think the old statement was, God helps those who help themselves. Nowadays, you hear it over and over in black churches. It doesn't make any difference what you do as long as you believe. In other words, I've heard it actually said, if you believe you can be a no-good sinner, a robber, a thief, a burglar, a murderer, a pimp, a prostitute, a drug dealer, it's all right as long as you believe. Like the hell it is, you need to do some good deeds. So we get so caught up in things that are the path of least resistance. We want everything handed to us instead of going out and earning it. We want to be successful, but we won't finish school or go further in school. We may go to school, but we don't achieve in school. We want somebody, our woman, to take care of us or our man to take care of us, and we don't go out and do what we ought to do. We have a lot of babies without trying to be married to have them because we get bigger checks for doing so, but nobody wants to go find out how to raise them. We want to love our children, but we need to understand that sometimes love means don't give them everything, so they learn how to be self-reliant. You see, there's a downside, a backside, a flip side to everything. So, where do you go with what you do? You want to go to heaven? Well, go die. You'll get there quickly, I guess, if you believe. But on the other hand, if you want to take a religion as something to inspire you, then go do something for somebody else besides yourself. Stand up for something. You've got a clear pathway to the pearly gates, so be brave. Have physical and moral courage.
Well, actually, this thing, like, you know, it's like a religion. It's kind of like a hindrance to black folks, right? And I'm not saying the practice of religion, but how we practice religion and how we show to express our beliefs.
Well,
Would that be the case?
I did research for this think tank I mentioned earlier, and one of the ways that slave owners were instructed to have high profit in their raising slaves for fun and profit adventures was to make sure that they got religion delivered to them so it pacified them. Religion became something that would inculcate the sense of you need to be tested by enduring what is being done to you so you could get something, the pie in the sky after you die, and put up with what we're doing to you now. You came from a heathen place, and therefore this is your punishment for being a heathen, your penance that you must pay as a good Christian. That's nonsense. That's the 3 M's. Missionaries, send them in, then the Marines, then send in the man catchers to get slaves. You see, it's not good. And we have done something very interesting. What's the name of the first planet from the sun? Mercury. Next one is Venus. Then Terra, that's Earth, and then Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, etc. Intercontinental ballistic missiles, Atlas, Thor. You get Mercury space program, Gemini. You get Apollo. You have Marvel Comics with Thor. You have Anthony Hopkins playing Odin. In other words, the white folk ain't forgot about their ancestral gods, but you'd have to go 1 out of every 10,000 African Americans to find out anybody who even remotely had a clue as to who our ancestral gods may be. You see what I'm saying? We had everything replaced. Christianity is not an overlay, it's a primacy that makes us particularly susceptible to being pacified. We've got black churches as an inescapable institution in our communities. Some of the preachers need to tell these young girls keep their legs closed. Some of these guys to go get a job, wear a raincoat instead of fathering all these outside children. And the young men, it's your duty to go finish school so you can deal with what you need to deal with for the next generation and the one you're part of. You see, hip-hop and dancing is good, but does anybody come up with anything besides preaching against it when half of the young ladies sitting on the front row up there while the pulpit's looking have on short dresses that look like they're shorts when they're standing up? What are we going to do when we deal with it? We really want to get free. And the source of getting free is what you see when you look in the mirror in the morning. Comb or brush your hair, brush your teeth, shave, or if you're a woman, put your makeup on.